Hello and welcome to Beyond the Surface. I'm Angela Bertone, your host. Today we're going to be following up on a question that was received during one of my recent podcasts. And the question was, is the heart and the imagination the same thing? And the answer is no. Imagination is an activity that we can do both in the heart and in the brain. And when we use our imagination of the brain is going to pull from the things that it knows and remembers, things that it can recall, like places, people, time, and the experiences that we've held in our cognitive recall memory. One of the reasons that we use our brain to to have any type of imagination is in the act of problem solving, in the act of recall. Sometimes trying to recall someone's name, if we can put it with a story, that'll help us recall their name faster because we can liken it to more of the sensory parts of our body other than just dealing with the recall portion of our brain. So, when I'm talking about the imagination here, typically on Beyond the Surface, I'm oftentimes and probably most of the time directing you away from your logical brain because most of my focus is on the heart brain and what the heart brain can bring to the table. Hence the name of the podcast, Beyond the Surface. So, surface things to me would include things that we can measure, right? What day it is, what time of day it is, how much something weighs, how old is it, how long will we be there? Anything that you can measure through some sort of measuring device, whether it be time or space. Now, when we're talking about the imagination in the heart, it's usually very specific as to what I'm wanting to direct you to do. And that is to go into the heart's intuitive, unknown, wondering space of not knowing so that we can be in a position of receiving. So many times when I've worked with clients, let's say for a specific example, with something like PTSD, if I do not get them out of their logical brain, it's very difficult to help them heal from any type of PTSD or stress or anxiety, things like that. And that's because the brain has the need to know. And when the brain is in a place of unknown or feeling like there's a precarious situation, which when the brain doesn't know, it's going to experience some stress or pressure, which will originally cause the brain to go and look for a solution. It triggers problem solving. But when that problem solving doesn't have an answer and we stay in the brain to imagine, we actually just increase more cortisol and adrenaline, more stress, and it's really not good for our bodies and it's pretty ineffective. It's in those moments, whether we're trying to work to get the body to reframe and heal a past memory that's causing PTSD, or if we're just at work and we need to problem solve and the brain has never experienced this type of situation, it's something totally brand new, and we have to go into something that is unknown and try and figure it out like from out of nothing, right? So if you listen to one of my recent podcasts where I'm talking about overcoming anxiety, I talk about pausing and praying and pivoting. Or you could even put it pause, pivot, and pray because you have to turn away from the current method of thinking to get to a new method of thinking to bring the body out of that stressful response we call anxiety that's really can spiral out of control. That's where we usually get in trouble by saying things we don't mean or doing things we regret later. And so if we can develop the skill of turning away from the logical brain in those moments by first taking a breath, pausing, putting our hand on our heart, and then going into that mindset of, Okay, it's okay for me to just wonder. It's okay to not know. Now, when you're in the place of not knowing, and we covered this a little bit before, but just trying to explain the difference, the brain is not going to imagine outside of its borders what it knows. It's going to pull from everything it has in its memory and its recall. Even if we don't bring it to our conscious brain, it's still going to calculate in some areas we may not be aware of, looking for a solution. But when the anxiety kicks in and your brain just begins to ruminate and you're sweating and you really can't function, you could change that neurological pathway or that pattern in your life by pausing and then praying so that you can pivot and take a different direction, or pivot to the Lord, pivot to your heart and take a different direction. The process of wondering allows your imagination to run wild. It allows your imagination to be messy. It allows your imagination to do things that feel comforting. Like, you could imagine you're walking on the beach listening to the waves roll in. You could close your eyes and imagine, "Ooh, I'm so glad I'm not in my office right now, so I could just take a breath for a minute." When, of course, your body is physically in your office. Now, scripture does tell us that eternity is in the heart of a man, and that's in the book of Ecclesiastes. Scripture also tells us it's in our imagination, in our darkened hearts, we've corrupted the glory of God. Now, let's segue for just a second and talk about, what does the glory of God mean? There are different words for the word glory, but the word I'm going to talk about right now is the word to glow. And to glorify God, one of its meanings is to shine a light so that we can see clearly. Like if you were to sit by candlelight and the light would glow and offer you better sight if you were in a dark room. It's that type of word. So when it says to that our darkened hearts um, corrupted the glory of God, it means that we don't see God clearly. It means that somehow the light has gone out and diminished, and therefore we're not seeing God, and we're kind of left to our own devices at that point. Now, I will say this, in life, if we're going to invent something that's never been invented, we need to know the art of wondering and the art of just contemplation without having a need to be right or necessarily fix anything yet. Simply just brainstorm. Simply just let your thoughts run wild. They could be messy, they could be ridiculous, they could be brilliant. And when we have the freedom to just let that creative part of us flow, we can tap into our intuitiveness. We can also create some synergistic vibrations within the body so that the body's now calm and peaceful and open. When the body's in high anxiety and panic, it tightens up and clamps down. It actually is, it can't receive because it's in protect mode. So by letting your mind wander, by putting your hand on your heart and just being okay with not knowing and just pretending that you're daydreaming if you want to, you're going to open up a part of your heart brain that is going to be able to receive even things that don't seem possible, right? And so in scripture, we're also told to call those things that are not as though they are. And so if something's not working out right, you could begin to imagine, well, what if it was? What if it was already worked out completely? It's going to change your chemistry. It's going to change your breathing. It's going to change your temperature. It's going to reduce your cortisol, reduce your adrenaline, and bring in some balance in serotonin and dopamine, like we've talked about before. So, the major difference that I want you to get from this podcast is this: the brain is very good at, once it has information that it can calculate, and it can come up with great ideas based on past experiences and current experiences. The heart is better, though, at imagining things outside of space and time. The heart can imagine things outside of what you've experienced. You could pretend you experienced something. I've had people say, well, I don't have any memory. I'm like, well, just pretend if you did. Let's pretend you could remember that you're 7. What are you wearing? Are you in blue jean shorts, or do you have on a pair of overalls and tennis shoes? And they're like, again, we're just going to pretend. We're going to pretend we have a memory. So why do I do that? I need to get them out of their logic in order to get the brain to begin to cascade a different set of chemicals that calms the body down, that brings the body into an open state of receiving the new information that we're asking for. We're asking God for direction. We're asking God for creative ideas and solutions. Again, your brain can do that, but only with known information. But your heart can take in things that aren't even possible, like flying through the cosmos or flying to the moon, sitting on the crescent, fishing for bubbles with a hook. Well, your brain says, well, the hook will bust the bubble. But in your imagination, you could catch bubbles and they not pop, right? Like you can do whatever you want. And so we're not looking for physics in the heart. We're not looking for facts in the heart. We're looking for a way to dream of what is possible, a way to utilize the way the heart works to open up our creativeness, to open up our ability to stay at peace, to wait upon the Lord that He's working out all things for our good and that nothing is against us. And even if something was devised against us, that God's already making it out for our good. And God is love, and love is all powerful, and love hopes all things, trusts all things, endures all things, and love can't fail. So just imagine if you could walk in that every day, like today. What if you started that right now? So that's what I wanted to cover with you today, is just to kind of give you a little bit of deeper insight into the brain and its ability to imagine, which it can. But again, when you're imagining there, you're going to have some conflict and you're going to be experiencing some more stress. But if you go into your heart and you imagine there, you can do all sorts of things. And I can tell you this right now, I've never seen a person heal spontaneously while being in their logic. But I have always, every healing I've ever seen happen, spontaneous healing, I've seen quite a few. Every time I've seen that happen, the person was always in their heart. So let's take that time to develop that skill, and let's live some time in our hearts today and every day. I'm Angela Bertone. Thank you for joining me on Beyond the Surface, and thank you for sharing it with others.